We are on the hunt again, ladies and gentlemen, and this time we are in North London, and this is a really interesting sale. It's evoked a lot of emotion in the room here. This is a parade of shops and uppers being listed for sale. Again, we're now talking about Allsop auctions. And the heartbreaking thing here is it looks like it's the same seller. So there was a chance to maybe sold this unbroken. And if anyone knows anything about unbroken freeholds or unbroken blocks, there's massive value hidden in there. But we are talking about just one of the lots today, and that is the meat market with the 2 flats. We will be talking about where the value is, how you look at something like this, what we would do, what we think a potential buyer should do. And we also talk about how, especially for myself and Piotr, this is the kind of thing that we have been looking to buy, and how this restricts value to other people, and why we're excited to see something like this come to the market. So make sure you watch to the end. We will be talking about how much we think it's going to sell for. And on this one, I think none of us talked about how much we'd pay for it. So how much would you pay for it? And watch to the end.
We are back with Property Auction Hunters, and today we have special guest Natalie Shaw with us. Welcome, Natalie.
Thanks so much.
It's amazing to have you. So, Natalie, 25 years of investment banking. Clearly, that's given you a lot of transferable skills, and now professional property investor. So, welcome on the show.
Thank you so much.
Okay, guys, so this one is a lot which forms part of a bigger portfolio. So we are looking at one property in particular, but it forms part of a large parade of shops and uppers in Holloway. It's actually Seven Sisters Road, but just off Holloway Road. I know this area really well because I lived there for 8 years. I lived 5 minutes walk from this property. And this one in particular, we have a lot of questions about in terms of why someone would split this into little tiny pieces instead of actually doing something with the big unit that they own. And we have some ideas and thoughts about it. But this particular property is a corner unit. It comprises a shop with 2 self-contained flats. And the shop is not everyone's cup of tea because it's a meat market. Actually it's butchers, they sell all kind of meat there. And then there are 2 flats above this, but the whole property is leased out on one commercial lease, and this commercial lease is producing £48,000 per annum. And the interesting thing is that this commercial lease is ending in June 2025, and I bet whoever is renting this, they would want to stay there. This is a cheap rent for this property. The shop and 2 flats. The 2 flats are probably worth in rent about 40k. And then you have a prime position on that corner shop. Everyone would want it. It's like a 30k shop minimum. And then there's also a cafe at the back, which I think is also part of this sale as well. So very interesting lot.
Yeah, definitely.
What do you guys think?
I think if you're a rent-to-rent provider or want to get into rent-to-rent, this is something that you should learn from, because this is what rent-to-rent originated from, is taking a whole building in a prime position of London at really low rental for what it is, and they've got a big arbitrage on that. You know, those flats are rented out minimum £1,500 to £2,000 each. The shop is obviously producing a set amount of income as well, and they're basically arbitraging their income from the shop, I guess, really. So they're really not paying rent for the shop. So they're getting the shop for free, and they're using the rent from the flats to pay off the lease. So this, for me, is what real traditional lease-to-lease, rent-to-rent, whatever you want to call it, is based on. So look, they've got a really good positioning on their lease. It's clearly going to come to an end in 2025. So there's going to be a re-gearing of that lease. Now, that re-gearing, as everyone's probably thinking, is going to either be a re-gearing where you get rid of the flats on the lease, and then the flats end up selling on leases. So you can obviously do a title split, sell them all off individually, or you can rent the flats out and hold them as well. That's the other alternative. I really like this lot. I think it's priced really well. I think for what it is, you're getting just over 6% pretty much net yield, plus you've got the future potential and the future value. I think this is something that I would buy personally. And if you had a pension fund, you'd want to buy the whole lot in reality, because it's fixed income effectively.
Yeah, And funny enough, this is owned by, from the land registry documents, I can see this is owned by Lazari Investment, and they own a lot of commercial property in central London, prime central London, including the Fenwick shopping centre that just got planning permission as well. So they're a big, massive company, and I'm wondering why this would be sold in tiny pieces, because also you can see from the photos that there's a big gigantic mansion block just on the other side corner of the road, and I would envisage something like that happening on this side of the road, where there's like 5-6 stories and commercial downstairs and really nice good quality build, but this is Islington, and Islington is not great for planning gains. So
Natalie, what do you think?
Oh, I think it's a crying shame to break it up.
Yeah.
I just see so much value in doing it, but I don't know if they've been badly advised to split it up. You know, anyone trying to accumulate this will try and accumulate as many units as they can, but you'll get the one passionate buyer that overpays for one in the middle, and then you've got a broken up block which doesn't have the same amount of value. But if we just take this one in isolation, I think this is a great corner unit. I think the asset management potential is great. And you may even get, because it's a corner unit, you may even get permission just to go up on this one too. So, and I like the fact that there's a lot of space above the shop. If you see, there's a big sort of roof terrace. So you could actually extend the apartments. Because it's on a corner, you've got the side return. So you could actually create another 1 or 2 apartments.
It's quite valuable space.
On that, above the shop. I don't know how easy the planning is in the area, but I sort of see so much potential just with this particular corner unit. But yeah, crying shame that it's being broken up.
Yeah, I echo that sentiment. You see something like that and you think, I can see why whoever is selling it has done that, because they're thinking piecemeal, there's a greater pool of buyers that can buy something like this for what could be selling for 850, 950,000 pounds, whatever, than buying the entire block, which would be 7 or 8 million pounds, you know, rough figures. So I can see why that is. It doesn't feel like it's the modus operandi of Lazari Investments to be breaking these things up. So I'd be paying close attention to the legal pack, special conditions, to see if it says the current seller is not the registered owner. This kind of looks like it might be someone who has bought it, splitting them up piecemeal, and then trying to exit and make 20%. That's what it looks like. Who knows? But I really love stuff like this. Me and Piotr, when we first started working together, were actively looking for properties where the entirety of the building was let on a commercial lease. We attempted to buy 2 out of Barnet Ross on that, remember the parade, the kitchen Bromley. Shop in Bromley. So we look at these, there's 2 years left on that lease, so you have 2 years of income, at whether you buy it on a 6% yield or a 5% yield, whatever. The real value here is when that lease comes off, assuming it's not under the 54 Act, where they have the preemption rights.
It most definitely is.
It most definitely is, but you can still negotiate out of those things, especially for the residential, because
if you're going to develop it out,
you're going to develop it out, exactly. But you'd look at that and you think those 2 flats have got to be anywhere between 450 and 550 each, depending on size and finish. Or Piotr's not aware of that. 300.
I was going to say 350.
Yeah, those are bad quality
That's
flats above.
Guide price just in the flats above.
You know, and even if you went 200 grand over the guide, and you thought, well, if I sell the resi off, I only have the commercial value of the shop below. So if you get that at 30k income, as Piotr said, you know, and you put the commercial value against that, you know, you could end up with that commercial almost free.
And the airspace, don't forget.
And the
airspace is actually a good valuable airspace compared to everything else that people sell off, you know.
Yeah, that's the game to play with those things, to buy the whole thing and end up with commercial for free.
Yeah,
that's
how, and historically that's how we've priced these things when we've looked to buy them. And I think if one of the things I like about stuff like this is someone who knows that area is going to look at the guide price, look at the yield, and assume potentially that maybe the resi is sold off.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't say whether it's, you know, it's not, if you're
it's
just
not
flicking
listed, the
through,
sizes are not listed.
It's not listed. All of those, you could be forgiven if you're not paying attention to think, it's just a commercial property. But if you dig in and you're like, what, the whole building, And then you're like, well, is it the whole parade? If you're not paying attention or you're not sure what you're looking at, it creates more questions, and someone's just going to flick through and go, oh, clearly someone's fire selling this because there's 5 lots in a row, then there's another 2 lots or whatever it is. It doesn't, unless you know what you're looking for and what you're doing, something like this could slip right under your radar.
I don't think this is a trader, personally, for a few reasons. But I also think the fact that they've put it in piecemeal can create a lot of competition for the people that want the whole parade. Because I feel like nowadays, in today's kind of market, in today's auctions, you will get, like Natalie said, one person that bids up one of the units for quite a bit. But if someone really wants that whole parade, which you'll get a few people that will, then it'll create a lot of competition. And then at the same time, if you don't get that one person that's willing to pay 7-8 million for the whole parade, you get the people that will be willing to buy it. So I actually think it's quite clever, even though it's a bit of a shame, I do agree, but I actually think it's quite clever, whoever did it, deliberately or not, to actually split them up, because you've just brought a lot of different buyers. You've brought the big buyers in, and you've also brought the small buyers in. So you've kind of got to have your cake and eat it.
Do you think someone will come in and make a pre-auction offer for this? Just say, we'll take the whole thing.
I mean, if it's Lazari Investments or if it's a trader, neither would accept a pre-auction offer, I don't think. That's again, a gut feeling, but trader definitely not. Lazari, I imagine if they've gone through this work and they've been advised, maybe if it is Lazari, they've been advised by Allsop to split it up to generate that kind of interest. I think... No, I don't think it was.
I don't like pre-auction offers personally. Genuinely, that's just my personal opinion. Because I think if someone's willing to make that pre-auction offer, they're willing to pay that in the auction at the same time. And usually, from my experience, when we're selling stuff in auction, when we get loads of pre-auction offers or general pre-auction offers, it means the lot's going to do well in auction, and we just kind of let it do its thing.
Let it run.
Unless you get someone, for whatever reason, that has a time-sensitive matter that needs to purchase within a set period of time. But that's quite rare anyway.
So I find these things quite interesting. So when I used to, when I worked for an auctioneer, managing the auction, we would be very particular about how we positioned, especially if something was being split up, how we positioned those lots in the catalogue. So here it's just been done in numerical order, right? In that way. And there's a lot to be said for that. It's a continuity thing. But the way that I used to approach it is I would say, which asset here looks the easiest and the brightest to sell. So you'd look at that Costa, which is one of the ones in the middle, and you think, right, someone's going to attach a greater yield value to that Costa income than they are going to a nearby local trader who's got a mum and pops, right? So you would put that up front first, because the price that's going to sell for is going to set a benchmark for the remaining assets. I don't think they've done anything wrong here, because I think that meat market's going to sell really very well, because it's a corner unit. I think it's going to set a high price. But if you are splitting this across, one of the benefits of selling this as a whole is actually you have to create a parity of the level of income across all of the commercial occupiers when you're buying it as a parade. When you're buying it individually, you can't do that unless you are going to make sure you're going to win every single one. And that's a lot of hope to place on bidders in the current market. And I don't know how many people are going to go nuts to get one of the local occupiers versus the corner units versus the Costa unit. So I think there may be a bit of value that might be lost there. Gut feeling.
I think it's also a shame for the area, because one of the things about getting a big parade that then potentially gets redeveloped, as you say, 5-6 stories, it's going to have nice flats above, it's going to have top quality ground floor commercial space, then the whole area starts this whole process of gentrification. I think as soon as you split this up into sort of individual owners, it's a real shame for the area, because then it's never going to redevelop. And I think that breaks my heart.
Interesting. Okay. Well, so what do we say about this selling or not selling? I think, first of all, do you think this will sell as a whole lot, or this will sell individually?
I think Natalie's not far off by saying they might get a pre-auction offer for the whole thing, but depending on who the owners are, they might or might not accept it. So I think they'll all sell 100%, because they're all guided quite well. They're not guided too cheap, but also not too expensive that it kind of doesn't bring enough people into the mix. But yeah, it's difficult to put value. If I put a value on the meat shop alone, I'd probably say it would probably sell for about $790 to about $810 personally.
I think 8 feels about right, and 8 to 8 8 to 850. It's a wide range, but I think it, if someone is really looking at it with the eyes, the way that we've looked at it here, I think it's got value at that level.
I think it'll go for more. If it's sold individually, I reckon this is nearer 900, 925.
Wow.
I think people will look at the future value, both of the flats and then of the ground floor rental income. I think, these sorts of things, I think there are savvy buyers out there that go around looking for this sort of thing.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. I think this will be like a 775, just over the guide price kind of thing, just because there is a risk with it in the sense that lease is running out at the end of the term, even though the actual income I think could be much higher. People will still have this issue with paying too much for a lease that's just about to run out. So I think 775, that's my guess.
Okay.
It's not my typical
Good
guess.
range
I would
there.
be, yeah,
That's a
be
good range.
normally more
No, he said
aggressive.
775, so that's 775,000. Is that right?
Yeah.
So a specific number.
Why did you not say that to Jay?
With PR, I need to keep him in check.
Great. Okay, amazing.
So we know it's going to sell. Do you think it's going to sell? And what price do you think it's going to sell at? Put some comments in below. It's always good to get some engagement from you guys. But yeah, on to the next.